So welcome to the Sentinel. You've been here plenty of times in the past.
But not in this room.
And you are running for state senate.
Yes.
It's a little bit different from past experiences. What sets you apart from the other candidates?
I think what really sets me apart was the 12 years at the State House, 13 years at the school board, and 8 years at the city council. There's it's a learning curve on all three of them, and one of the things you have to realize, city council, I was one of 15. I just can't come in and I'm going to change the world. You have to build up a level of integrity and respect and get to work with other people.
And so what would your legislative priorities be as a senator as opposed to a state rep?
Actually, it'd be quite different than what would normally be. There's going to be bills, there's going to be the budget, but actually they're going to have a little effect on Senate 10. My thing is looking at a much bigger picture. I'd go into Southwest Regional Planning Commission. Their report that said between 2015 and 2040, Keene's only going to grow by 900 people. The county is only going to grow about 300 people. So that's going to leave us even less electoral power. And so I think what we have to do is find a way to save Senate 10 and save the county instead of dropping and turn it around, be more productive. This thing of saying, well, if we sit here, they'll come to us. No, I think part of the being a senator of this district is working with the communities and going out to some of the fairs, some of the job openings, and say, or going up to a UNH when you get the kids graduating and say, hey, come here, this is why we come here. And I think that's one of the things that we've kind of been lacking. The mayor and the other people, you gotta go out and sell it. You gotta go face-to-face contact. And this is one of the things, one of the things nationwide, and even in New Hampshire, there's about 2,000 immigrants that come into New Hampshire every year. About 1,000 of them are well-educated, master's degrees, some PhD degrees. They have a higher level of entrepreneurship. And when you look in there, there's nothing on our part of the state. We have about half the immigration population as the rest of the state of New Hampshire. We have about half the foreign-born. And what I look at, if we get these there's a difference between immigration and refugees. And I think if we can get more, or our fair share of immigrants that come into the state, in that report you'll show how they're buying homes. Just Zulu, just around this area, there's over 500 homes for sale. It shows that they come into communities, they buy homes, they increase the value of the homes, which then contributes to the tax base. They start their own companies. Some of them normally 1 to 5 people, but they create really good companies. They're increasing the STEM program. They can bring people in.
So what's it going to take to get them to move in?
I think what's going to get them to move in is part of the Senate and part of our elected delegation and other ones going in and saying, hey, this is a good place. And you go in and say, like UNH has a lot of international students that come in. They spend 5-6 years there, and a lot of them stay. It's like going up to UNH and saying, hey, this is Keene. This area is a really good place. I'm a person of color. I came to Keene in '72. I went to Keene State College. I became a lieutenant colonel, and I came back. People vote for me. This is a welcoming place. It's to break the stereotype the rest of the state has, saying that this is not a welcoming place for the people of color. It is a welcoming place for the people of color. You go around Keene, you talk to the people, and so if I'm lucky, I would do my best to break that perception, and we need more people. And the part is, when you look at immigrants, it's not always people of color. There's a lot of people from Eastern Europe and stuff. There's people from Ireland and Great Britain that come to the United States, and they get their professional degrees or advanced degrees, and a number of them want to stay in the United States. There's no reason they're all going to stay in Portsmouth or Nashua or Manchester or Concord. Those cities, even Lebanon, are making a concerted effort to go out and bring their people into the community, because they are also use them to take care of the problem of aging workforce. And in Keene, we have a problem. If we look at the growth, our growth is in the 65 and over population, and our growth is in the people below the poverty level population. We have to change that. We have to get people, educated people, people that want to work, people that want to start businesses into this area. And on this, I'm not just saying we're going to limit immigrants to professional people, because the largest number of immigrants in this area in the county is Asians. You have a lot of them. They own grocery stores, small convenience stores, gas stations, nail salons, and so there's a lot of ways they can be highly productive. We have to get more people in our area.
So Kris, how do you envision doing this, or leveraging the need to do this legislatively? I mean, what might happen?
One of the things that I would like to push on is, a few years back up north, the farmers and the ranchers were complaining we can't get veterinarians. And so we in the state said, okay, if you want to go to be a veterinarian, we would pay off your medical school. And so it's kind of like, if you go to the colleges in New Hampshire and you want to come here and you live here for 5-6 years, we would go in and reimburse, whether it's a tax break to pay for your student debt. It took us a long time just to get it in the Keene teachers contract here, so that we're paying off. New teachers can get money to help pay off their student debt.
So that would be a legislative?
That would be a legislative one. I think.
So we recently had the hospital's mental health unit closed because they can't find psychiatrists. So you want to promise people who will be psychiatrists here?
Right in that report over there, they said that they're short 51 psychiatrists in the state of New Hampshire. And part of that's after foreign-born and foreign-educated people have come in to fill the psychiatry work. We need new psychiatrists. I didn't realize the importance. When I had my stroke 2 years ago, I had great insurance, but they sent me to a psychiatrist, and I had like 10, I go, wait a minute, I just had a stroke. Why did I have to go to a psychiatrist? Well, I didn't realize there was mental health issues and everything when you're having a stroke, and then they sent me to a therapist. And so you need psychiatrists more than just mental health or drug addiction. There's other people who you can have strokes. I saw when I was 4 months in the nursing home, I saw people that needed psychiatry help, but they weren't going to get it because they're on Medicaid. And I'm here at this table talking to you. because of having good medical and going into psychiatry.
So that brings up another issue in terms of the adequacy and availability of health care. So the laws with expanded Medicaid, more people have access to treatment, but as you point out, not all treatment plans, not all insurance
We'll accept
plans
them.
are the same. So how would you work toward that in the legislature to try to get more people access?
Again, I would say I would like to create a system to reimburse and pay off some of the student loans. It doesn't make sense to come out and pay $1.5 million on Granite Hammer to try to arrest a few, because it's just like the military. You kill off someone, you just replace them. And so it's a never-ending battle. And so some of that money can be used to get more psychiatrists, and it's just not psychiatrists, it's licensed therapists, and there's also, once people come out of a rehab facility, they're going to need follow-on care. You just can't take someone and say, okay, you've been through 6 weeks of rehab, and put them right back into the situation they got on drugs or they became an alcoholic in the first place. So again, when I was able to get home, there were still people that came to my house, checked on me, take care of my mental health and stuff. And like you said, I did not realize how different healthcare was for different people and how they affected your quality of life and recovery. We got 138 passed. I would like over the next couple of years to bring that up to 200. A number of states have 200, because the problem with 138 is kind of like analogy to the school lunch. You go up to this point, and what happens if you make $10 over? So we're lucky there's a women's organization that donates money every year, thousands of bucks every year. So, and no one knows, so those kids get paid. 138 brought a lot of people who had no health care into the system. But if you're at 140, you're in that situation that you may have to go out on the exchange to buy. And yes, a lot of it would be covered by the federal government, but you're still on the exchange. You may have it's that bronze plan, and you may have a $2,000 to $5,000 deductible. And a number of doctors are saying, pay your deductible first. And that's if you can find a doctor to take you.
But wouldn't it, if you change the threshold to 200% of the poverty level, aren't you still going to have people who are just above the threshold who you'd say, oh, well, sorry, you just missed. And then you move it up. Sorry, you just missed.
Now, looking at where the federal government funds it and everything, you're going to be hard pressed to take it over to 200. Yeah, it's going to, everyone, you're going to get to a point where someone just misses. And if you're over 200% of poverty, you're in the working class. The other part is we need to get a New Hampshire minimum wage, not the federal minimum wage. And I would have no problem of getting it up to at least $9 and putting and supporting legislation to get up to $9 over the next couple of years. I know people are saying $15 an hour, but when you look at the economics of Keene in this area, $15 an hour is totally non-supportable. If I was living in Portsmouth, it may be, but in Keene area,
Support
looking
what
at
you mean by the businesses, or What do you mean by supportable?
It's not supportable. The business is McDonald's and Wendy's. We have way too many service businesses. And I go to Westwood every couple of weeks and bring the patients candy and stuff like that. And one of the women was there. She'd been there for 12 years. And she just got the next level of over LNA, so she can medical tech or whatever. Well, they want to give her 37.5 cents. But she said, wait a minute, someone just got hired and they're going to get $14 an hour. And so we've created 2 pay scales, so new people are coming in and getting paid higher than someone that's been there 10, 12 years. And so when we talk about it, so if I hire Paul and I pay him $15 an hour, and then I have to raise yours up to $15 an hour, you're new, you're 12 years. And so people are not looking at the effect. So if I give him $15 an hour, to be appropriate, I may have to give you $18, $19 an hour to cover your experience in training.
Go ahead.
No, if you understand the topic, I want to have mental health questions since we're sort of on that piece here. So we know that we have a lack of beds, we have diminished staff, and we have a consequence of which of these long wait lists. So if you're elected as the state senator, what would you say face to face to the person who came up and told you that I'm on a wait list, a month-long wait list? What do you say to that person? What are you going to do to comfort them? Or
That is really a tough question. I'm not going to lie to him. I'm not going to try to make him feel good, because that's only being condescending to the individual. And it's really going to be a tough one. I'm going to keep saying that I'm working on increasing more beds, and then I'm also would like to look on, if we're paying Medicaid on some of these people, why do we have to send them to the hospital just in New Hampshire? Why can't, if Maine has beds, or Vermont has beds, or Massachusetts has beds, why can't we? About 3 months ago, my sister-in-law is a rehab nurse works for the state of Massachusetts in Taunton. She called me up crying and says, Kris, I kicked your brother out of the house. He's an addict. He'd been taking the pain pills, and he stole over $4,000 from his kids. And I said, if he don't go to rehab, I'm not allowing him in the house. He's a postal worker, and he had good insurance. She works for the state and has good insurance. They sent him down to Florida for 6 weeks because there was an available bed in Florida. Now he's off the painkillers. And I think we have to look at the big picture. We just can't say you have to stay in New Hampshire and you have to wait for a bed to open up. And there are beds around New England. If you're going to a nursing home, when I was in Fordham, you're sitting there and unfortunately you have to wait for someone to get out or someone to die, and it's like the nursing homes are bidding for the person to get the people in. It's a really unfair system, but again, if you have openings in drug rehab places around New England, why can't that happen? If there was no beds in this area, I could have easily gone to Manchester. I could easily gone to Brattleboro. They would have found a bed for me to rehab.
In terms of just healthcare as well, costs within the state, beyond just going to other states, is also a problem. And sort of what we've seen is there's been a lot of partisan fighting over it, and generally these agreements are only extended about every year or two. I think the latest Medicaid expansion was just 2 years. So what can, at a legislative level, the state do to lower costs, and how do we break a cycle of this sort of year by year stopgap?
Sorry.
No, that's
The first thing that we have to do, and one of the things I would support wholeheartedly, we can't do this 2 year and sunset, 2 year and sunset, because if I'm a doctor or a medical provider, come October, why should I want to bring on a new patient that I need to see in January and February to get, because I don't know if that patient is going to have money. And I don't, like I said, I don't want to stop something, because whether we like it or not, doctors have businesses. Their job is to make money for the lifestyle and to pay off loans. So that is critical, that the Medicare expansion has to be in there permanently. Because even at the end of this thing, we're going to get 90% from the federal government. Okay? And people go, oh, no. Well, if people continue to get poor and need health care, and we tell the federal government we don't want that 90%, we as the taxpayers have to come up with that 90%. And what I've seen over the last 10 years is they won't raise the budget above inflation, so that means they'll find a way to bring it down to the local communities. Like our nursing home runs $3 to $4 million in the hole every year because they don't get the reimbursement stuff. And so, again, the other nursing homes are businesses, and so people have problems, and the state won't pay for it. We're going to end up putting more people in the county nursing homes, and all of us are going to be paying for that. And so
how do you take that fight then to the Senate floor? If this has been, a lot of this issue has been discussed and debated for pretty much, like I was saying, every few years. So how do you change the conversation so that something more permanent, as you suggested, could be put in place?
this is where learning politics is, because a lot of the senators are realizing how much it costs and how much it would benefit them. And so this is where you pay quid pro quo. You go and tell the House, if the House wants a major issue or item in the budget, you say, hey, we're not going to put it in the budget or HB2 until you agree to this. That's why you have committee of conferences. And so me, I completely support it because I see what it does to this area. And you can go to both the Democratic or the Republican leadership and say, hey, this is important to my area. I am not going to vote for the budget.
Would you yourself put that in terms of priority if you're going to make these kinds of quid pro quo arrangements? Would you put Medicaid expansion high on the list?
Medicare expansion and Medicare, my number one priority would be take the sunset out of Medicare. My second priority would bring it up to 150 this year.
We have a lot of other topic areas here. I want to talk real quickly about, we know the seriousness all too well of the heroin opioid crisis right now. What are your priorities for tackling that? What is a very challenging problem?
That is a really extremely challenging one. And like I said, I was listening to NPR 2 days ago, and the gentleman on NPR says, for a lot of people, it takes up to 7 stints in rehab before they're cured. And also it means that you have to improve the environment they came in. Yes, in the Keene area, 1 in 10 people have an addiction problem. People take drugs or alcohol is because they're in pain. And we always tend to look at physical pain. but there's other pains. If you have a family and you have a mortgage payment and you don't know if you're going to get laid off in a week or two, now you're in a lot of pain and you're a lot of stress, and you may find a way to, I need an escape. You didn't tend to get addicted or whatever, but you needed an escape. So you have to find ways to relieve some of that pressure, whether you're going to keep your job or you can get proper medical care. You take it by a number of ways. Yeah, you take drug dealers off the street, but that's not the high priority. You ensure that we don't use the county jail as a place to just lock up people with addiction. We have to ensure that, and we hear it at the State House over and over again, people are addicted because they're weak. It's their own fault they're addicted. And so, yes, some people have addicted personalities. Some people get addicted because they never thought they were gonna. So, take people off the street. You try to improve the economy in the other area for the people so they have a secure place. We try to increase the number of beds. We may have some people who are not really seriously off. Then we come up and try to make some of the places around the country, they have houses, they bring the people in and work together, use a 12-step area, and so it's kind of like they're being worked and helped, but they're also working out in the community, going back based on what they can do. So the families are not just left over that social services has to take up. There are so many different ways that you can work at it, and not everybody is at the same level. Not everybody needs inpatient treatment, and it's just like alcohol. Not everybody needs to go into rehab for alcohol addiction. The churches have a good one. There's other steps, Alcohol Anonymous. There's other steps that can be used. So I think we need to sit down and say, not everybody who's addicted is in the same way. We don't have a plan to how we label different addictions, and if we label different addictions and how bad it was, we can then put an appropriate way to treat people instead of just say all you guys have to, men and women have to wait for a bed.
The opioid situation is something that kind of has become a big public thing in the last year or two, and dealing with it costs money, which gets back to one of the ongoing things with state government and the legislature, including the Senate, which is balancing revenues and spending. So some people say, well, we spend too much, we need to cut spending, and others say we have to find other ways of generating revenue. What are your ideas on?
Okay, if I go back to when I was on the school board, in 2004, when we were looking at these reports, these risk reports, and we had kids that were taking risky behaviors, and we said nope, and then every 2 years it came out and it was showing the drug use. 1 year it came out, it said 7% of the kids had tried heroin, and we said no, that can't happen. Well, it came. We as adults failed to address the problem about 10 years ago. The second thing I would say, I have no problem spending taxpayers' money to save money or to make money. The first thing I would do is I would do research. I would get with other people and say, hey, if you don't spend $1 million here, you're going to spend $3 million in crime and all this other place. And so it's saying is, hey, if it's going to cost $10 million to treat 2,500 people, if they're not treated, when you add up the car break-ins, the house break-ins, the burglaries, and I can't pronounce all my words, all those, that's where we go. The problem with government, if you guys had you all had 5 different departments, you would all come up with ideas, and you don't care if what you're doing is going to cost him to spend a heck of a lot of money. And so what we need to do is, hey, let's get together and say, yeah, spend 10 million here, save this money in crime, save this money here. There's ways that you can do it. You guys as a business do that. You don't go and say, hey, I'm going to support this and have a negative effect and lose in other areas. So me, that's a really critical one, and I've done my homework plenty of times in the State House and on a City Council and a school board to show people. And then once you show people, and it's like, it's kind of like you put them in a position so they can think it's their own idea, and they can go home and tell their people, look what I've done.
Well, not to put everything on your shoulders, but you've been in the House for 12 years,
Yep.
so you've had those opportunities to try to convince other legislators of that way of thinking. But New Hampshire still seems to be in a situation of having this real tension between, revenue sources and spending. So what kind of reception does that get, and how as a senator would that change?
As a senator, you only have to convince 12 other people, whereas in the House, you have to convince 200 other people. And there's a lot of people, I would tell you, in my 12 years, there's about at least 75% of the people who have never got out of the chair. They play free cell and all that other kind of stuff. They haven't written a single blurb, and then they wait until someone goes up or down, or someone pulls out a green tie, or pulls up the green, or pulls out a red. And so, and a bunch of people just go there so they can collect mileage and otherwise to socialize. The 24 senators, they understand the real importance, and part of the senators' part is to kill a lot of the BS that comes out of the House. The senators are at a much more cordial basis. It's like Bradley. Bradley worked with the Senate. Bradley worked with the Democrats to help get Medicaid expanded for another 2 years. So the senators are more apt to work across party lines. The senators make their own decisions. And Bradley made a decision because he felt it was best for the Republicans going forward, but he also knew it was best for the state. So he worked with the Governor Hassan to get that done. And so basically, when you look at a senator's almost 5% quote vote of the matter. 1 or 2 senators can change things.
It doesn't sound like you're a big fan of the House. Do we need to change the structure of the legislature, you think?
I think we need to go to review like Massachusetts did when they lowered the number of their representatives in the House. I think the House should have about 200 representatives, and I think the Senate should have about 36 senators. And that would take them look in Keene, because there's so many. How many races are competitive? We go and pick before who's going to go to the House. And so one of the the big things that the local Democrats have said that I voted too high with the Republicans. I think I got like 37%. Well, I go back and I say, look at the record. Look how many bills that I've got passed that benefit. Okay, you may not like school choice, but one of the bills that I got passed is that public charter schools get $6,000 more per student. MC2 could not survive without that extra money. That is critical to it. I voted with O'Brien once to put the collar on the school funding. So Keene and all of the local communities, Keene got 1.1 million, the local other communities got money. The collar came off this year. Keene loses about $300,000-$400,000 and all the other ones because the adequacy was based on number of students. And so when Chesterfield went down as Vermont Yankee, and we went down from 18 to about 1,400 in the high school, that costs us money, and that's going to cost us money going forward. The cap, while the Democrats didn't support it, was in the best interest of Keene. When I voted against the budget, and I got in trouble because there was a tax on every insurance policy that was written. Well, Peerless and other ones have been moving jobs out, so why would I vote for a tax on an employer that's critical to this whole area? And so that's why I don't get support from the local Democrats, because I vote the way it's best for Keene and best for the state of New Hampshire, and I would do the same thing if I was elected Senate.
Circling back to state finances.
Yeah.
Are there, if there's additional spending that needs to go in certain areas, I guess one question would be is, do you think there are adequate enough savings to be found to fund those additional initiatives? And if not, are there new revenue sources that you would be in favor of or opposed?
One, they always like to go to tobacco tax, raise the tobacco tax, because no one is going to complain. Well, the amount of people smoking in New Hampshire is going down. Again, that's one with it. People smoke, you want to raise taxes, but then again, you pay on Medicaid and Medicare because they have health issues. We just opened one of the biggest liquor stores in Nashua and around. New Hampshire cannot continue to depend on tobacco taxes and alcohol sales. One of the things that I would look for is another increase in the gas tax. We had the 4-cent increase in the gas tax. If we have another increase in 4 cents in the gas tax, we can take some of the money that we put in the general fund to pay for public safety, the highway department, not the highway, the police and state highway police and the state patrol. Then if they're going to refuse to raise money, then we have to fight for choices. There's a lot of different fluff in the budget. It basically, which lobbyist talks the most? There's more lobbyists up there than there are members in the House. And people in the House like their free meals and they like their free booze, and they'll do what they're told based on how good your layout or meet the greet is. Again, they would go to the Senate, and Nashua and Manchester have extremely big problems with heroin and stuff. They know they can't continue to be on the news and saying, because New Hampshire and West Virginia are the highest, say, oh yeah, Nashua has a drug problem. Manchester has a drug problem. As a business person, I don't want to move into Manchester or Nashua. Those are really critical. So I would work with the senators from Manchester, Manchester and Nashua and Concord and stuff and say, hey, we got to handle this critical problem. We have to put money in this critical problem, else we're going to continue to lose businesses. We don't want to have West Virginia. We don't want another story on national news saying how bad a drug problem is. And I think that goes across party lines.
And how about such proposals that get floated around, like broad-based taxes, income tax, sales tax, expanded gambling, those kind of things? Where do you come down on those issues?
I voted for expanded gambling. I think it was 6 years ago, or maybe 8 years ago, when we were going to put 4 resort-type destination type ones. So that would bring in room and meals tax, car rental tax, entertainment. There was so many ways, and that would basically be people coming in, spending their money, and leaving. I do not support slot machines, because the unfortunate is people have a habit of sitting there all day and putting slots in, and their return is basically nothing. But if you go to a destination place, you can enjoy it. So if you go up to North Country in Berlin, where in the winter you can hunt, you can snowmobile, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. The women can do the shopping and the spas, and you stay over the weekend, and then you go see a Brooks and Dunn concert. You can say, hey, I had a good time. And actually, in a lot of those places, those people will do very little gambling, and the state would be getting its money on all those other taxes. A broad-based tax, I think we need an income tax. And the reason I think we need an income tax is that New Hampshire, when it comes to taxes, no sales tax, no income tax, no death tax. And so if I'm 65 and I want to come in and I say, wait a minute, nice community, and if I sell my house in Massachusetts or New York and I have $500,000-600,000, I see this nice place on the lake and there's no kids or anything, I can buy that, and I may be able to pay cash. And it's a great community, and I may only have to pay $8 per thousand on property tax because school is non-existent and all this, and I don't have to worry about death tax. So I'm using New Hampshire, I'm paying little taxes, and I got one of the highest wealth factors in New Hampshire, and I like to use wealth over income. And so I've got all this wealth, but I'm not really sharing that wealth for the state. We all know what happened when Governor Lynch came in, and he got it passed that there would be no more donut towns. And so when that really did a job on education, that caused a lot of communities have to raise their education tax because no donut towns. So Portsmouth is growing like crazy. They've got their houses' values are going up, their salaries are going up, but they don't have to help the rest of the state. Even thought we're pouring all kinds of money into 93 and 95 and other roads that the whole state has to pay for. And I think we need an income tax. Is it going to pass? No, it's not going to pass. But to go, because one of our benefits that we have in New Hampshire is because we don't have a sales tax. I have never understood why someone would drive up from Massachusetts and everything just to save $50 on a TV when you look at opportunity loss and gas and all that kind of stuff. But people come in to save a few bucks. They like it. They think they're getting over when they don't pay a sales tax. And so we can't afford to lose that benefit. But we need an income tax. We have one of the highest medium incomes in the country. And if we didn't have Corrs County, Sullivan County, and Cheshire County, it would probably be in the 70-75% range, because we're a big drag on that. And to say that the people can't pay an income tax for what they get, I just think isn't fair.
Just to briefly touch on education again, you were talking about as a way to keep the young workforce in. You're talking about debt relief, but before that, I just want to talk about tuition costs. They're at public universities. They're rising. What would you do substantively as a legislator, as a senator, to try to lower tuition costs as they are now?
As I've over the last 10 to 15 years, I look at it. Even Keene State, I went to Keene State from 72 to 77, then 201 to 203. And except for the science building that was upgraded, basically the only increases were things that had nothing to do with education. UNH just bought those $15,000 tables that light up and everything. I think we're going into the system where we want 5-star hotels or 5-star resorts, and and the kids have to pay for that. I think we're not putting very much money into factors that improve the quality or improve the delivery of education. We would have to look and really seriously about that. We would have to look at giving, and I think the university system needs some more money. We also need to look at why it takes so many students 5 to 6 years to graduate. If you take an extra year to graduate, that's over $20,000 extra. You may have gotten out of college in 4 years with a low debt load, but it's at 5 and 6. So I think like in Keene, about 62% of the people will graduate in 6 years. That's a really big waste of money. Second, I would put more money to the community college system and come up with, because a lot of kids don't need to go to a 4-year college. But even if you go to a 4-year college, the English and math and those basic ones, $400 at River Valley, $800 at Keene State. So it doesn't make sense. And sure, they're transferable. Now they're getting that way. Second part is we got to put an end of Keene State and Plymouth and Manchester competing against the community colleges for students. About 25% of the students that go to Keene State have low scores and are not going to finish the first year. But when you look at those guys and women, they could have went to the community college and taken at a slower rate. If they needed remedial courses, they could have taken them at the River Valley College, again at $400, against $800 at the college. And I think right now, some of the University of New Hampshire has no problem. They had record applications. But the small state colleges, they're fighting with the community colleges because students are money. And so I would push more to fund the community colleges. Yes, I would push to fund the university system. They're two separate areas. But I would work more to get more New Hampshire kids into the community college to reduce their debt load and hopefully get them to graduate earlier. There should be no reason why you can't come out with the community college with an associate's degree in general ed and have that be accepted at the any college in the university system. They're starting to do that now, where you can apply to UNH, get accepted into UNH, go into the community college, and they've given you a list of courses that would be easily transferred to UNH. So if you had a son and daughter, and you say, wait a minute, I can do the first year at, my child can live at home, and you can do the first year at River Valley, look at the amount of money that you're going to save going to UNH. And so instead of graduating UNH with $40,000 in debt, you may graduate with UNH from $20,000 to $25,000 or even less in debt. So working on both, making sure they don't compete against. But the big thing is working with the high schools and the parents to not to tell them. Most of them have no idea what's available to them. And you know, what happens if you go, you save your money, you work, you go 2 years, get the associate's degree from River Valley, go to UNH, you'll be pretty close to having no debt. But those are some of the options. We know that the state is not going to pay the money they should be paid. And it's one of those things that I've learned in the Marine Corps. There's difference between what you would like to have in reality. Once you accept what reality is, then you look ways to get around that reality. That was just like 4 years ago when I put in for the dual enrollment. I said, hey, let's create a commission like 45 other states, so there's a standard acceptance policy that if any of your children took the dual enrollment, they knew which ones were going to be accepted by the university system instead of just going in and getting paid. And I said, wait, for example, physics teachers are really hard to find, even advanced physics. So if the school works with it, and I send my son to Keene State and take that physics course, he or she doesn't get hurt because they don't have that course. And it was a Democratic part, and they said, nope, we don't need dual enrollment. The university system looked at it as a way of losing money. But I think it's Manchester Memorial or Manchester West. They cut a deal with Southern New Hampshire. No, the Penman, the ones that are on TV. Any child student who wants to take a dual enrollment goes there and pays $100. And they can take a course, English, freshman English, 300, pass it, and it goes on their high school transcript, and they get credit at college level. And the reason Southern New Hampshire is doing it, and it's been proven over and over around the country, is not out of the goodness of their heart, because they realize once you've got 20 or 24 credits, which school are you going to choose? You usually choose the school that you've gotten a number of those credits. That's why I was trying to convince Keene State, if my child got dual enrollment and they got 24 credits, you're like, holy crap, that's 1 year I don't have to pay for. Let's send my child to Keene State. And so those are the ways that I've been looking at. Those are the ways that I want the kids to get in. I want the kids to get a quality education. Some of the kids around the state with dual enrollment graduate in 3 years, save a whole year, get into the job force quicker. And so there are ways to do it. And instead of sitting around saying, well, when is the state going to give us more money? The state's going to give us more money. And the other part is, when you look at the numbers, the high school isn't going to have, it's not going to grow. The college is not going to grow. So it's going to be beneficial that they work together. If Keene continues to, and Monadnock and other ones continue to shrink, you're not going to get those physics classes. You're not going to get those advanced chemistry classes because maybe only 8 or 9 kids, and you're not going to be able to afford the advance, you're gonna have to pay, when you look at everything, you're gonna have to pay about $100,000 for that teacher. And you're not gonna be able to afford to pay that $100,000 for the teacher. If you have 9 kids, it may be like some, we may pay the tuition or work out tuition at Keene State College and say, hey, can you take these 9 kids at $400 or $600? The taxpayers are going to like that because it's going to save them a lot of money, or they're going to fact that the kids would have to go without. So there's ways to look at it.
Okay. Now, when we sit down with candidates, obviously it's not the same kind of, you've got 2 minutes kind of time constraints that you had at the Senate forum at the library or in the mayoral debate. But we do try to keep these to a certain kind of steady length, in fairness to all the candidates. And we're starting to run a little bit long. So we do have a couple more topics, but maybe we can just kind of do quick hitting answers. One is energy. Energy costs in New Hampshire considerably higher than anyone would like them to be, which affects both ratepayers and businesses. Been a number of projects proposed and a number of ways in which people have talked about fixing it. What do you think we need to be doing?
One of the things we're looking at clean energy, but we vote for clean energy, and when we want to do it, it's not in my backyard. We have a bunch of opportunities. You go to Mount Wachusett, they get a fan producing. The big thing is we have to get over not in my backyard. Second thing is we have to, if I'm an energy company, I should not be able to bill you for a pipeline or electric plant. Plain and simple, I need to look at it whether it's financially feasible, not taking the ratepayers. The third part is the pipeline. They're going to have to work at selling a pipeline if they want to have a pipeline. We have gas pipelines in Keene right now that most people don't understand. Right on West Street, right under the bridge, Panera and Starbucks. There's a gas line that goes there. So there are ways. So those things. Biggest thing is not in my backyard. Once it's not in my backyard and we can see and go in. Net metering, we went from 50 to 100. Go higher as soon as we figure out the way of the transmission cost. If we all have Eversource, we all have to pay a transmission fee. But if we have net metering and I have extra, I put on the line, but I don't pay any transmission fee. So that's a big thing that's going to work out. If we work out the net metering transmission fee, the cap will go up. And the more the cap goes up, the less we need fossil fuels. And that's really important.
Okay.
Of course, we have a number of red-listed bridges in this state, some in this region, roads that need repairs, but we have a 10-year Department of Transportation year plan that's perpetually years behind. How do you make that happen?
You're going to say, a 10-year plan is a 25-year plan. Real quick before I go, like the roundabout we took in at Base Hill Road. They came in and they're only building a roundabout based on the money they have. They know they need an extra lane, but they don't have the money, so that's what they're going to do. Well, again, we need to do the gas tax, plain and simple. 4 cents was able to get in. We may have to go up to about 10 cents because we as a state, our economy is based on tourism. If we have crappy roads, we have crappy bridges, we don't have tourism. And so, again, 10% may seem like a lot, but when you look at it, we have a problem. Not a problem, but we have too many cars that are flex fuel. We have too many cars that run on batteries. They don't pay a gas tax. If I have a car that it runs on electric, and I don't have to pay a single penny. I get the benefit of route going all over. One of the things that Oregon has done is based by mileage. We have to come up with some way for people with electric to pay their fair share of roads and maintenance. Again, we have to look at, I think the president's thing is by 2020, that's going to be about 45, 50 miles per gallon. We can't, even if we came up 10%, I don't see how we're going to have money enough to fix our roads and bridges unless we look at it. We may have to do what we did about 4 or 6 years ago. We may have to put an additional fee on registration. We had that one for $30 for cars and $45 for trucks. And that was guaranteed right into DOT's fund, none into the public safety.
Really briefly, what can the state do to reduce gun violence, and where do you stand on gun control measures?
The gun violence, first we have to find a way not to be a gun mentality. We want to be the Wild Wild West in open carry. I voted a number of times unpermitted against unpermitted open carry, which is stupid. We have to enforce the laws that we have on the books. And one of the things that I was thinking about and I would push is, if I'm going to give a gun to a family member or to a friend, we have to have a background check. That's one of the big loopholes that we have right now. If I want to buy a gun, it's a background check. But if I want to give the guns to you, there are no background checks. And so what keeps me from buying guns and giving them away because I have a good? And I would push that is, if you have a gun that you went through a background check, you have to get a background check before you can give it away. You shouldn't. And the other part is we got to close the loop at these gun shows. I can go to these places in fair and say, hey, I want this item. And 3 or 4 days later, it may come in at FedEx or UPS. Why can't we go in and say, hey, I want this gun, I'm going to pay you for this gun, but you got to wait until it passes the background check, which may take 3 or 4 days instead of a simple 5 to 10 minutes. And I don't think either one of those inconveniences anybody, and I don't think either one of those violates the Second Amendment. I think all of those are public safety concerns.
Okay. Quickly, your views on the death penalty?
My views on the death penalty, I would not, I would do away with the death penalty, especially in New Hampshire. And the reason I would do away with the death penalty in New Hampshire was this death penalty was a political thing. And anytime you have a death penalty based on political things and someone wants to have improved their political future, there's always a risk that someone is going to be unfairly convicted. I don't think anyone should be able to use the power of the state to get a conviction to improve their political career. On the federal level, I can't support the death penalty on the federal level because their trials are a heck of a lot fairer. There's more in. And on the federal level, you got some really horrible guys like Timothy McVeigh blowing up the Oklahoma building, or people going into the Twin Towers. On the federal level, there is some really brutal, really nasty people. And so, but on the state level, and like most all the states around the country, they're doing away, well, Texas probably never do, but they're doing away with the death penalties because they can't guarantee that the penalty would be, I don't like the word, but dished out fairly.
decriminalizing marijuana, up or down?
I voted for decriminalizing marijuana. I voted for medical marijuana. I did not vote for legalized marijuana. Upset the guy. Because one, medical marijuana took us 3 years to get medical marijuana going, even though the federal government says it saves money on drugs. Decriminalizing marijuana, yes. And as far as legalizing marijuana, I want to take it slowly. You know, how is the state going to come up with regulations on decriminalizing marijuana? Once we have that, and once we know it's being done fairly, then I would consider legalizing marijuana. The rush to legalize marijuana just to quote unquote and say we're going to make money without looking at the social costs, I think is not the right way to do it.
All right. Well, I think we're done here.
Good-
Unless there's
good
something
speed round.
more you had to, you wanted to get across.
The my thing is that I just want to get across is I am always preparing, and thing I was taught was over and over again, no matter what the crisis comes up and you come up with an answer, always make people think you didn't do any work. And I think that sometimes gets me in trouble because I may come across as unassuming, but no one knows the hours and hours of work that I did to get up to that point. Because mostly my career in the Marine Corps was operations and plans. So I used to have to do it that way, look at it and look at it and look at it. And it's just like, I'll leave these, so, you know, how is workforce diversity and how it's helped. And so I can come here and talk about all that. And so, but I've done all the work before that. On my iPad over here, I have all the reports from Mr. Putnam when he had about the Monadnock area. I have the Southwest Mutual. So I have all those. And so if you have a question or you're going someplace or just, wait a minute, something's wrong here, I just open it, and the great thing about the iPad is you type in Paul Miller or whatever and it just pops up. And I go, wait a minute, Paul Miller said something totally different last time. And so
Oh, he's on.
There are a lot of Paul Millers, so maybe not.
But that's what I do in the State House. I always have this one. I have one book that right now is up to 4,600 pages. And I'll just show you real quick. Can you remember my social security number?
Maybe we should turn the camera away when we're punching in yourself.
So it's right here, and I want to say, I spelled it wrong. Pumpkin Festival. I spelled pumpkin wrong, did I? Yeah, I spelled it wrong, I think. I just. And so when I type in my name, and it'll tell me where I'm on in every single page, you know, give me the subject. And so that's what I do, and it keeps it all in there, and so it's on a PDF. And so basically, whether I'm at the school board or city council or whatever, that's why I always had the iPad with me, so I can just type it up. Like last night I was doing with Casey back in 2008 and 2009 when we were doing those discussions about getting the VA clinic and the vet center in Keene. I have all those. I have all her articles right in here, and so when people ask me a question or whatever, they think I'm the great wizard, know everything. I've studied the stuff and I just put it in there so I can get quick access to it.
Is that a free cell icon? No.
Yeah. See, like right here, page 6. This is when I did the Union Leader, when that was House Bill 590, which O'Brien and Barzaro, I hate to say it, he used to work for me in the Marine Corps. With that bill, they wanted to create a committee that every single place that the government was going to, federal government was going to give us money, would have to go through that committee, and that committee would have to approve it. And so you guys published that, and the Manchester Union Leader published that, and so that's how quick I can come up with stuff. So that's the way to do it. That's my cheat slip.
Well, thanks for coming in.